Hi, welcome back to Waxing On. It's Friday, and I promised you something special, and we've got it. Today we're looking at some material written by uh, Jean-Louis Le Bris de Kerouac, or as he's known in literary areas, Jack Kerouac. Yeah, one of the great beat writers. Him, Ginsberg, and Burroughs considered the pioneers of the beat generation. Now, back in the late 50s, he had written a book called Dr. Sax. And I'm just going to read you a little bit about it because it kind of outlines the book. It's kind of a fantasy book, not like his usual. I mean, obviously, his most obvious choice for Kerouac would be On the Road, which was a straight-ahead narrative. This one's a little different. Here's a little synopsis of it. It says, describing the mystery and terror of intensely felt adolescence, Dr. Sax is a story of Jack Dulons, like Kerouac himself, a French-Canadian, growing up among the shadowy doorways and brown tenements of Lowell, Massachusetts. Always lurking in the back of Jack's mind is the shadow of Dr. Sax, a cape-flowing, slouch hat, half-concealing leer. Kind of sounds a little bit like the Shadow to me, so kind of picture that, if you will. He is one of the many ghosts, monsters, demons that inhabit Jack's fantasy-hidden world. Memory and dream are intermixed in a mad universe which at last erupts in an apocalyptic vision that destroys the reincarnation of evil with the boy's morbid world. Now, book was written, say, late 50s. Kerouac's living in Mexico City with William S. Burroughs. Now, here's a little clip, too, that Kerouac wrote a letter to Ginsberg saying, I simply blow on this. I improvise like a jazz musician. And on the visions of the shadow and my 13th and 14th years at Sarah Avenue in Lowell, culminated by the myth itself as I dreamt it in the fall of 1948. Now, he also puts a condition in here. He admits Dr. Sax was written high on marijuana without pausing to think. So it's kind of a stream of consciousness book. Lots of influences in there, and again, just total improvisation, just running with an idea. Now, subsequent to the book, Kerouac wrote the screenplay, and the screenplay is called Dr. Sax and the Great World Snake. Now, the screenplay was never produced. This one's an illustrated screenplay that came with it. You can see we've got some photos as well. Copyright in 2003, and it was part of a package that I picked up at I think it was a Chapter store. And the package includes 2 audio CDs with the illustrated unabridged screenplay. Great thing about the package is, hey, lots of fun stuff, right? Got lots of information here about the people involved in the production. Sorry for the glare there, guys. We've got the 2 CD set, and the sleeve here is where we kept the screenplay. So it was a real nice kind of box set. Now, the screenplay, again, was never produced, but it's done here as like a radio play. We've got characters on here, the narration, there's music. It would be the same as if you were listening to, like, say, an old radio play from the 40s or maybe 50s. It's a few familiar names on here. Performing on the CDs, we've got Graham Parker playing one of the characters, Baroque. We've got Jim Carroll, and we'll talk about him in just a second, playing the Jackie Delos character. He's a voice, the Count Conduit, Boaz, the Butcher Man. He's got a lot of characters he plays in here. Now, Jim Carroll, you may remember, had a group together. He's an author, poet, and musician, but he put a group together in the 80s, the Jim Carroll Band, put out 3 albums, and one of them was Catholic Boy. That was his first release. From there, he had a big hit, and it got a lot of airplay, especially in FM radio, called People Who Died, and maybe that rings a bell with you. He also wrote the autobiographical book, Basketball Diaries, which was turned into a film starring Leonardo DiCaprio. So maybe those kind of bring back the memory of who Jim Carroll might be. Also, we got Dr. Sachs himself is played by Robert Hunter. Now, you may remember we've talked about Robert Hunter a few times on the show as well. He was a great collaborator with Jerry Garcia, wrote a lot of great hits for the Grateful Dead, as well as he collaborated with Bob Dylan on a couple of tunes on Down in the Flood and the album Together Through Life. So we've got two very recognizable names on here, and Graham Parker. Three very recognizable names on here that perform on the CDs. It's an interesting look into a different side of Kerouac, different from, again, if you're only familiar with On the Road, with that kind of narrative with him and Neil Cassidy, this one very different with his more fantasy-based story, as well as the background on why that happened. Maybe that's part of it. But you've got the audio CDs, you've got a screenplay you can read on its own, or you can read along with, with the radio play. It's a great collectible for anybody that's into Kerouac. It's not available on the streaming networks that I'm aware of. Hard copies are available online, and I would check firstly like Amazon.ca, Amazon.com. Other parts of the world, I'm not sure what the comparable websites would be for that, but yes, it is available online still. It's still in print. So something to check out, maybe entertain yourself this weekend with, is Jack Kerouac, Dr. Sachs, and the Great World Snake. Okay, that's it for Friday. See you on Monday. Until then, everybody have a great weekend. Take care. Stay safe. Thanks for stopping by.